Hello and welcome back to another edition of Goalie Interference. The one, the only, Mike McKenna is here. What's up, Mike? I don't think Mike can hear me. I don't know what's going on. Can anyone hear me?
I gotcha.
There we go. How are you tonight?
I'm all right. How do I sound?
No, you sound fine. Why do I sound like shit? I might have forgot to switch my mic. Oh, well. Well, we're dealing with this one for a minute.
We got all kinds of goofiness going on here. I'll tell you that for free.
I will tell you
setups. Look at I got sunbeams on me. Maybe I should.
Yeah, you do have a very Jesus-y feel to you.
I do. It's boy. What an atheist stream. Give me a second here. Watch this.
I mean, and we can have the angel. Let me say this. I'm at a bit of a crossroads at the moment after the last couple of games, and here's why. The reason I'm at somewhat of a crossroads is because I want to believe that this team is around the corner here, that we've gotten away from the 5-game losing streak, and we've gotten away from the 2 games in Minnesota and Winnipeg. Yeah. That's gone. But I can't quite bring myself to quite get there. And the reason being is because I just think the teams that they've played and that they've beaten, and the way that they've beaten the teams that they've beaten, doesn't allow me to fully go all the way on board and saying, this is it. They have turned the corner. The 2 games in Seattle, I think that Seattle team is just a complete abomination, barely an NHL team at this point. Vancouver, they were good in that moment. Vegas was very good for the first period. I thought the second period was decent. Mm-hmm. The third period, they blow it. The game before, similar, that Chicago game, they're getting their butts kicked and they have to come all the way back. Where do you kind of come in on the playing well versus shit opponents?
Well, I think that you're pretty tough on the Kraken. They're definitely an NHL team, but man, that's not much of a lineup. Okay. And teams can pull a rabbit out of their hat occasionally. I mean, the Kraken knocked off LA 6-1 a couple of weeks ago, which it happens, right? But it doesn't happen consistently and regularly.
Right.
But you know what? Sometimes we can hyperanalyze these things and think, well, geez, that was a bad team. But bottom line for me is that they won both games. And realistically, that first game against the Kraken was a laugher. They ran them out of the park. Yep. And even the second game wasn't even close. They took care of business in both those games. So I can't really evaluate based on them, other than the fact that I thought they were good. And I thought that, hey, man, we got to give credit where it's due.
Get your points.
Got your points, man.
Yep.
And
get your points. Yep.
And look at this whole time frame when Lehner was out. We cannot overlook the fact that Logan Thompson did solidify the net. To me, that's the word I can find to best use is solidify. Stabilize maybe is even the best word. So he kind of gave him a little bit of hope. And then, like you say, the first 2 periods last night, I thought were really strong. The
first period for sure was great.
Yeah. But man, that game could have gotten away real. If Lehner doesn't save that breakaway at the end of the first, it's a different outlook to it.
I agree.
And listen, he wasn't challenged a whole lot, but he was good, man. And
stopped a couple of tough ones. There were a number of tough ones that I'm like, boy. And he stopped them. He did what he needed to do. He was good.
He was good. So they weren't overly reliant on goaltending over the last 3 games by any stretch, I don't think. So I do think, and Vancouver to me is kind of a mystery because that's a team that still will push every now. It would not surprise me if Vancouver comes out really strong next game and could win. They easily could win. They're a way better team than the Kraken. But what I did like is that you've got a team like Vancouver that does still have skill. They have Horvat, they have Pettersson, they have Besser, they have good players.
Quinn.
Oh yeah, Quinn Hughes, absolutely. Even Garland, and
who was very quiet, which is rare against the Golden Knights. Connor Garland usually shreds the Golden Knights, and he was nowhere to be found in that last game.
And here's my biggest point. They did a really good job of shutting down Elias Pettersson. And Pettersson's gone missing a few times this year, but he's been much better lately and under Boudreau. And I thought that the Golden Knights really matched up well and took care of that and preventing chances against. And it's eye test, Ken. Like, you watch the game and sometimes you miss stuff, but like, I went back today and I watched every shot for both teams.
Yep.
And Pettersson was just nowhere.
Yep.
Okay. And that's a good sign to me if you can shut down the best players of the opposition. Horvat still had chances, but even Besser, not much from him. And Besser's now out of the lineup. You're not going to see him in the next game, in tomorrow night's game. So
right.
I like the way they look. I don't think the opponents were strong. I do think Vancouver is still dangerous, and Demko can always steal one. And frankly, like, he got beat clean by 2 shots, so it doesn't happen very often.
That is actually something I wanted to talk about, is not only does Demko not get beaten by 2 shots like that very often, the Golden Knights don't unleash those shots very often.
No,
they're not
and they
very accurate shooting team. And, for the 2 guys who did it, yes, Marchessault does it from time to time, but that's not exactly a staple of Alex Petrangelo's game.
Mm-hmm.
It's sniping guys short side. It's not really what he does. It's not to say that he can't, just not what he does. And then you look at the rest of the game and you say, well, that first period, they did have a lot of the possession time. They were creating dangerous chances, but it took 2 elite shots to get one in. The second period, the game's real mucked up, and they're kind of waiting for those opportunities, and they didn't really ever materialize. And that's fine when you're up 2-0, but they didn't draw a bunch of penalties. They're not making life difficult on the other team. And while I can live with that and am fine with that at 2-0, you have to be able to do it all the way until the game is over. And that didn't happen. And that's where my crossroads comes in, because I cannot deny 5 wins in a row. Like, these are NHL teams. They're 5 wins in a row. But at the same time, I don't feel great about any of them.
No, because that's the opponent you're facing more than anybody. But there's a lot of things that I looked at that, you touched on a couple things I have in my notes here. And there's one thing that really sticks out in my mind. And I question whether the Golden Knights can play heavy enough against top teams in the West. And I know that that's a hot button word to say, because there's a lot of different ways you can mean that. But like, the Golden Knights do a better job of playing heavier when they need to, like against Minnesota and against Colorado, but they don't do it regularly. And they didn't do it against Seattle or Vancouver.
No.
They didn't really. Now, listen, they didn't have to, because they have more skill than those teams, even with the depleted lineup. But man, they could have crushed them if they played heavy, and they could have done it earlier in the game. So I'm not sure it's there for this team. I don't feel like this team is heavy. I don't feel like they really are an imposing club in that way. And I question that in playoffs, man. Like, Colorado bulked up with gritty players, man. They got Manson and Lehkonen and Sturm, and like, these dudes will these dudes bang, man. You know what I mean? Like, they can
Calgary's
do it. Look at
already
Calgary.
a big
Jesus
team.
Christ.
Yeah.
Like, you want to go into a war, go to Calgary. Like, Minnesota's not the same team as last year. They also have a different goaltender. But I think
he's giving up way too many today. Not his fault. I was watching the game earlier. But
well, take a gander over at the Toronto Florida game.
Yeah,
that was.
I'm gandering on the games because you're talking about them being heavy enough to win in the playoffs, and to be honest, I'm not even convinced they're even going to be in the playoffs yet.
Well, I think you have to at least consider that, because I'm just thinking down the road here. Are they going to get tossed around in the playoffs?
By the way, you can't be upset about 7 periods out of 9 that they shut their opponent out, and I don't disagree with that at all. Yep. I just, most teams shut out these bad teams like that.
Yeah, but they have been better defensively. They have taken better care of their zone.
Yep.
Listen, like, the penalty kill has not been great all year. It's been a mid-pack penalty kill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we know the power play sucks. That's a whole different story. But the penalty kill, at least to me, when you get Martinez and McNabb back, it gives me some hope that it's going to be even better. Because, man, when I see, especially like, Martinez has been used judiciously, I would say. But when you look at
they're trying to protect him. They're trying to take care of him. Smart.
But when you look at the minutes that McNabb and Petro are logging, especially on the PK, like, they're the first over the boards, they're the next over the boards. They're going, and McNabb is so good on the kill. So just because of that boost, right? And this is something, I know you had it in our notes. It's something that I've thought as well. Like, when you have a full complement of defensemen, it takes such a load off your top dudes like Petro and Theo.
Yeah.
Not having to do everything. But boy, was it ever a tough first period for Ben Hutton. Last game. It was like, dude, the first period and a half. And listen, I love what Ben Hutton's done. Okay. But he went out with White Cloud. I remember at first I was like, oh boy, like every shot on goals with Hutton on the ice. And then they switched him to Petro, and it was like the same thing for a little while. And then after, like midway through the game, it all evened out. It was fine. But it's just funny how like when you go back sometimes and you just think, man, this guy's not having a night. And he's been great for the team. He's been a value contract. He's done everything, but it's in his old barn. It's against Vancouver. And he's probably like, the player's perspective is like, geez, why is nothing going right now? Like, why are all these shots happening when I'm on the ice, Because realistically, it's more on the forwards and the neutral zone a lot of the time. It wasn't because Hutton was blowing coverage. It just
or bad gaps or anything. Yeah.
So I thought they played better defensively, but I still, man, I get nervous with the Golden Knights and how fast they blow the zone with the forwards, especially, and even that secondary defenseman. And it really shone through on the first goal that Vancouver scored.
And these aren't good forechecking teams that they're playing. Like Seattle can do it, but they're not a great forechecking team. Chicago's not a great forechecking team. This Vancouver, this version of Vancouver, they're supposed to be a good forechecking team. They're not. And so that's where it's like, what's it going to look like against Edmonton, Calgary, Dallas, these teams, Washington, that they're playing down the stretch here, St. Louis. That's my concern.
It is. But you know what I've actually liked is that DeBoer's managed to find a pretty serviceable third line that's kept. I think it could be consistent even when players come back with,
I'm not as high on it.
Well, let me give you my reasoning for it is that, like right now with players out of the lineup at full, I still don't really buy Kolesar as being a true like third line player. He's not like, think about this. Alex Tuck was a third line right wing last year. Okay. So frame of reference, Kolesar's he's done a great job this year, man. He's got 20 something points. It's more than a lot you would think, but I think in a full lineup, he's probably playing fourth line. And dude, there is nothing wrong with that, man. He is he's
usable there.
Yeah. Absolutely, a good NHL player. He fits a role, great contract, all those things. I like Janmark's speed, but I really think that Nick Waugh is kind of a bellwether player for the Golden Knights in a lot of ways. That when he's playing pretty well and he's noticeable, the team tends to be like it kind of can go with him. If he's off, like that's when I start to get nervous. And I think he's been pretty good. He's played. I mean, again, dude, I think he's so good at center. That's where he needs to play. And I don't think that third line, the way it is now, the way it's constructed, is going to chuck in a huge amount of depth scoring. But I think they're a quality line. And I think it's a line that they can run with. And part of that is, you stick Amadio up on the top line. Like, what an opportunity. Like, hey, you're going to go play like
it's been okay.
He's been fun. Like,
it's been okay.
He has skill, man. Like, should be. He's been a first, second line player his whole life till he gets to the NHL. And now he needs the right chance for that. He knows how to play top minutes and be a scorer.
He's not Riley Smith. We noticed that.
That part is true as well. But I don't know, man. I think they're, especially still for the lineup they have, like they're doing pretty well. But man,
see, I'm still like, I'm with you every single step of the way. Like I'm there on the third line is decent. I'm there on look at the difference that it's making for Pietrangelo and Theodore going forward. I wrote that in the notes. And I also think like, well, Theodore's goal is in overtime. That's not really a goal that, you can count on. And it's a 3-on-1 born out of Marchessault falling down. So like, what is that? Didn't think Theodore.
Maybe that was calculated.
Sure. Didn't think Theodore was all that, noticeable earlier in that game. The games in Seattle, like they just almost forgot Theodore existed, which was odd, which I'll take that. That used to be a thing that a lot of teams did. But like that third line in particular, they're playing against Vancouver and Seattle and Chicago's third line. Like I need that progressing the game. I need you throwing pucks in. Like that's where we should be surviving and thriving. This should not be an overtime game when you lead 2-0 in the third period. You should not be down 3-0, against Chicago. Like that's where I have this. I'm just not sure what to make of it. And the challenge for me so much so is like, The next game is against a bad opponent. The next game after that is against a bad opponent. The next game after that is against a bad opponent. So, like, yes, I think that they can keep getting these points, and I'm watching these other teams around the Golden Knights just refuse to lose, which is concerning. But it's like when you get to this swing through Alberta, when you come back and play Washington, you know, even St. Louis.
New Jersey can even score like crazy, honestly.
I'm just concerned that we're getting wrapped into something here and that the confidence that's being built is going to crumble instantly because of how bad the opponents are. And in the end, I'm not sure it matters because take the points. Just take the points.
Listen, man, these guys are living by the ethos. It's every game. You just have to win because really that's how this is. Like, and you know, we've gone over how much we think it's going to take for them to make playoffs. And I mean, if Dallas has 14 games left, they haven't had a stretch this year where they don't get half those points.
Right. It's probably
since
98.
November.
Probably
so let's say Dallas just even gets 14 points. You know, if you've got 14 games. Let's say they get 14 points. That's 95. You know, and Golden Knights have 11 games left. And they've got to get 13 to go there. Like, there is a path here, man. It really is. Like, Dallas, like, I'm going to check in on what they're even doing right. I'm going to scoreboard watch here. Okay. Okay. It's against Long Island. Long Island didn't score well. But if Dallas, and we said this last week, I think by the 13th, by the time we do this next week, we're going to have a pretty good idea. And then by the week after that, we're going to know for sure. Because the meat of this schedule, that when you're going to have to really pay the piper and when you have to buckle down as a Golden Knights, like you just said, Calgary, Edmonton, Washington in a week's time.
I think they're going to get through all of that, and we're still not going to know. I think it's going to be that final week. I think they're going to be close enough.
Listen, we won't know. But I mean, my ex-player instincts of being on a team that hadn't made playoffs a decent amount, like, actually, take that back. I had a pretty good track record making playoffs, but I was on some really shitty ones too. We had two teams that finished last 2 years in a row. I was really happy to not have that happen again. But if they're not within 2 points by that last week, boy, it's going to be tough. Yeah, and it is. It's dependent on everybody because, I mean, you're just looking who's going to fall off. Is Nashville? I don't think
schedule's tough, but it's a lot of home games, and
Nashville's beating good teams. They've beaten good teams.
They can win.
You know, they're up on.
I mean, the one that's probably playing the worst out of any of them, but their schedule kind of lightens up. Lots of home games for them. They should be able to get somewhere close. LA, I think that yes, they
LA's not going to miss.
Tomorrow. I don't see them dropping off because of how light their schedule gets. And if they are to drop off, then Edmonton's going to get that win tomorrow. So to me, it looks like it's going to be Nashville or Dallas. And then the path kind of goes through the wild card. But I do think that, like,
we need to
know how good this team actually is. We need to be able to understand where they're actually going to be so that we're not fooled, I hope, by that last week and a half of hockey when they play halfway decent teams. Mm-hmm. And because we're still looking at, it's probably still going to take 7 or 8 wins out of the 11 games remaining. They very well may get the next 3, which really makes it a lot easier, makes it 4 out of 7. And that's a lot better. But, like, what if they drop 1? What does it look like? That's my concern, is, like, I just don't – or maybe I'm expecting too much. Am I expecting too much to blow these teams out? I don't know.
Blowouts just don't happen easy. I mean, like, let's take a look around the scores right now. Okay, there's some shit teams out in this world. And what did they do tonight? Okay, let's take the Sabres. Oh, they just beat the Hurricanes 4-2.
They've been good, though. They've been real.
You can't say the Sabres have been good. You can say the Sabres have had good performances on occasion, but they're not good. They've had good performances on occasion. I can guarantee Craig Anderson was in net, and he was. It wasn't Tokarski.
I mean, let me pull it up. The Sabres have to be 6 or 7 wins in their last 10.
Red Wings beat the Bruins. There's a big one right there. You know, so the Red Wings still have skill, though. They didn't, like, go into a big, massive sell-off at the trade deadline.
Buffalo has one regulation loss in the past 10 games.
What?
6-1-3.
Well, Ken, I tip my cap to you, my friend, because I had the perspective of watching Tokarski lose one. They are 6-1-3. Okay, yeah, 6-1-3.
Sabres have been excellent.
There you go.
Basically,
phenomenal.
goal
Actually, do you?
game, yeah.
They are like, listen. The deal that they got with Tuck's played well.
It's been good,
and Krebs is coming along.
Not surprising.
Yeah. So, what Buffalo got, good for them. But yeah, I just don't think you're going to see blowout games. They're getting their points. It's as simple as that. But they have to win tomorrow night. They have to. It feels like they have to win every night. Like if they lose momentum, if the Golden Knights lose momentum even for 2 games, it's done.
Well, like I see where you're coming from, but like, can you expect an 8-game winning streak? Like, is that where we're at, that it has to be an 8-game winning streak? I think they can lose one of the next ones, and it just means they have to make it up somewhere else. I think the schedule actually says they can get to 97, 98 based on just beat the teams that you're better than and don't beat the teams that you're not better than. But if you trip up on one, you're going to have to get one back. And then there's also a lot of road games. Like when this thing's over this week, they're going to play Vancouver at home and then Arizona at home. After that, there's 3 home games left the rest of the season. So that's a lot of time you're going to be on the road in these big time games, big time spots. And there's a wave coming behind them. Like other than LA, everybody's got games in hand. And I do want to talk about games in hand. But first, I want to tell you that this show and all episodes of Goalie Interference are brought to you by the Jimerson Law Firm. Jimerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas' preeminent law firms specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, and winning has mattered very much, 5 in a row, beating crap. When you need to beat crap, call the Jimerson Law Firm. Or if you need to beat a good opponent in litigation, go to the Jimerson Law Firm. Definitely do that. Games in hand. So I think a lot of people get confused by what games in hand mean. And I'll kind of try to explain. I think everybody understands the concept of exactly what it is, whatever. But here's how I know a lot of people have been saying, like, when you're the chasing team, you're like, well, it doesn't mean they're going to win those games. And I would agree. It doesn't mean they're going to win those games. But what I do think you have to do with games in hand, the best thing to do is look at a team's points percentage and give them that many points out of those games. So if a team is 600 and they have 4 games in hand, they're probably going to get 5 to 6 of those points. You might get lucky and it's 3 or 4. You can't, when I look at the standings and I look at a team like Dallas, who's 3 games in hand, or Nashville, 3 games in hand, and Vegas is on the correct side of the cut line, to me, they're not. Like, they're 2 or 3 back. Now, a loss changes things. If whatever, say Nashville were to lose to Minnesota, or Dallas is to lose, but how would you say players view games in hand? They view them as wins, they view them as potential losses, or do they view them the way I do, which is like, well, they're probably going to get some of the points?
No, you view it as, oh shit, they have games in hand.
So it's viewed almost
okay. Yeah, but sometimes that's when your back's against the wall and you realize, like, we have to get these. And I mean, was it a pretty good balance to grab a win in overtime against Vancouver? I mean, it just, even a point there matters a ton. But if that's not a win, you're further back. Like, somebody's going to grease out a game they don't expect here. And I think for players, you can only focus on what you're doing. Like, they're fully aware. They know. Like, when you see those games that aren't in your column, you got to figure that you need to win 3 extra games, because the teams are probably going to get 2/3 of those points on games in hand. That's kind of just your rule of thumb. Now, I had one instance. Yeah, if you're playing a little bit conservative, that's what you can expect. Like, my one example of this is when I was with the Dallas Stars, and we had an epic collapse when I was there. I mean, we lost like 8 in a row, and Ken Hitchcock was freaking out. And yelling at, come on, Spez, screaming at Spezza, and he kept playing Kari Lehtinen. And Kari's 1,000 times better goalie than I ever was. He is far more decorated, far more skilled, but Kari just got run into the ground. He's playing back-to-backs, and Hitch would only play him. He wouldn't play me, which honestly, if I was Hitch, I probably wouldn't have played me either. Like, you pay your guy to play your NHL goalie. Right. And when somebody goes down like Bishop did, you got to ride the guy that's been in the show forever, not the 35-year-old call-up who won 1 game in San Jose, over 2 periods, basically.
It was a good game, though. It was a great game.
I did play well.
Yeah,
I was very proud of that game. It's probably the only memory Pete DeBoer has of me. I didn't allow any goals. I was very proud of that. But
damn it, McKenna.
I was probably better in my career coming off the bench than I was starting games. What does that say about me as a human being? Wow. But it's the games in hand thing, like it doesn't make a huge difference to players. Like you get to this stage of the season and you know your reality. They've been through it before. But a lot of these players haven't, they came. Well, but remember that they all came from somewhere first for the most part. There's not many young guys on this club that this is their first taste.
True.
And I will say this, Ken, I truly believe this, and I've hinted at it before here by saying it, that this team hasn't faced adversity other than playoffs. In the existence of this team, they've cakewalked into the playoffs.
Yep.
Like just cruise. There's never been a shred of doubt whether the Golden Knights were going to make playoffs. And that's why I still believe that if they somehow pull this off, if Dallas falls off the map again, which, by the way, if that happens, God, I feel bad for Jim Nill. Like that can't happen a second time in 5 years in Dallas, because that's what happened the year I was there. And that was 2017, 18. It just can't happen again. If Dallas falls off and they make it, or Nash or whoever, they will have had to do it winning a lot of hockey games, and they will have had to have beaten good teams. They will have.
Not so sure about that.
Oh, Ken, they're not going to do this by beating all the shit clubs and then losing to the 3 good ones.
I disagree. Man. Like, why not?
Because they've got to grind out. With 11 games left, they got to grind 8 wins here, man.
Yeah, let me give you the 8 wins. Vancouver, Arizona, Vancouver, New Jersey, San Jose, Chicago. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You need 7. So, like, Dallas.
You've got Dallas, St. Louis, Calgary, and Edmonton in that mix.
Okay, you got maybe need 1.
And Vancouver is not an easy out. I don't care what anybody says. They're not an easy out.
Sure looked it for 40 minutes last game.
I mean, the Devils don't.
The Devils aren't good.
Mean, they don't. They've been struggling to find any goaltending, but they can at least score.
And then
Chicago might be the ultimate wild card, but Chicago doesn't have much goaltending either. So I don't know, man. It's doable. It really is. It could happen.
Yeah, it's becoming more realistic every time they win a game. But also, we have not seen what it looks like if they were to lose one. Like, we've seen win, 5 wins. If they were to lose any of these, just any of those in the past, even if it's an overtime loss, they're on the outside sitting in looking up at different teams, and it's looking up at 4 points, 5 points against LA, Edmonton, these types of teams. So I think you kind of do need the 8-game win streak here that they're 5 games into. And I think they very well may get it. I don't see any reason why they can't put together a halfway decent performance each of the next 2 games and grind out 4 more points.
Here's what has been in their favor. More than just the schedule. Okay. And the teams they're playing. The schedule itself has been in the Golden Knights' favor. They're playing every 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And they're essentially playing with 3 lines.
Yep.
Okay. Now, whether it's Decision centering the 4th line or whoever they're going to put back there, the centerman has played more than they're playing with 3 lines, more or less. And if this was a scenario where the Golden Knights games were just jam-packed, like they will be in that last week, if they were jam-packed together, I would have concern more than I do now.
Which it was when they were struggling.
Right. Because now I think even if they roll 3, even if they're dependent on people, you can still bring that energy and recover and be ready to go your next game. And that's where they've definitely, the influx of D helps a ton, man, because they're not going to have tired D anymore. Like, you can wheel out, like, dude, if you want to wheel out Dylan Coughlin to be a power play specialist, go right ahead. Like, you can do that. Like, that's your luxury, man. Like, that's good. Like, give me Dylan Coughlin on the power play. Fine by me. Let him crank away. Bomb that one-timer, I'm happy. I don't think you want them playing D right now. So the schedule is in their favor until it gets that last week. And that's going to be tough with 4 games in 6 days with back-to-backs between Dallas and Chicago. It's not a terrible flight, but it's not really that short of a flight either. I mean, that's a 2.5 up and down back-to-back, so
It's 5-8 before that too.
Yeah.
Like there is a 3-day break going into that final 4 games, but it is 5-8 with a bundle of travel in between that. And, the first game back is usually a tricky one. They've been okay in that situation. That happens to be New Jersey. So, they can do it. There's enough wins on the table here for them to be able to do it. I do think that the health, kind of the updates we got on health, somebody, Cody asked earlier here, do we have any updates on Riley and Carrier? So what happened in the press conference today was we saw Stone and Pacioretty skate through. They were on the other sheet of ice. They skated through. They did not participate in practice. That tends to mean they're at least a couple of days away. The update on them was essentially nothing. They haven't been reintegrated in the group. Then Jesse Granger, the Athletic, literally went down the list and said Smith, Carrier, Bressois, every name, every single name that was on there. And every single time DeBoer said the same phrase, not close, not close, not close. And then he laughed at the end of it and said, there's not a cavalry coming, boys. So
he also said that 2 days before Pacioretty hopped in the lineup once. So
it does seem like it's going to be just those two. And I think at the very best, at the absolute best, I think you're getting 6 games out of those 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're going to get somebody. Somebody's going to come back in the next month here, for sure. It's a little over 3 weeks,
right?
And we guess we'd call it a month. But you also have to factor in how hot are they going to run Lehner in this series in the games? At 5-8, like he's going to have to play all. Like
he's playing all but one, I would say.
And man, listen, I really liked his game. I thought that at times I thought that maybe he forced it a little bit, but again, he did it at the right times. I don't have a lot of fault there. But the way Thompson played, I would not be hesitant to let him grab a game or two. And I know that that's not Pete DeBoer. Like he's going to play Lehner. Lehner's the guy. So I may come down to Logan Thompson winning a game against Chicago to get the team in the playoffs, if that's what it comes down to, on a back-to-back, because they're going to split that. And, hey, man, he could do it. So I just – we can go in circles about whether they're going to make it or not, but I thought we brought up a lot of valid points that, to me, when we really boil everything down, how are they going to win even regular season from here on out with an incredibly stagnant power play, an incredibly mediocre penalty kill that used to be so good for this club? I think it doesn't even break the 100 mark if you combine the 2 scores. Like the power play's been at like 18% all year. Like it's hardly moved. Like whether Patches has been in or not, that would matter, but at this stage of the game, you can't bank on that. So, and let's call a spade here. They still have the firepower to be able to have a good power play, I think. Dude, you can still wheel out Petro, Marshy, Eichel, Theodore, Stevenson, whatever. There's enough skill that you can make it work, and they haven't. And it's been the same thing since how many years now? They haven't been able to expose seams. They haven't been able to make the goalie move. They haven't had tap-in goals. And if you're just going to rely on point shots and occasionally get somebody open in the slot, if you're waiting for a Dodonov to catch fire, maybe they need to try to trade him again. I don't know. I'm being an asshole. I'm being an asshole by saying that.
So the trade happens. He comes back. He scores the goal against Nashville. That's a game that the Golden Knights win with Evgeny Dodonov or not. The next game he scores in overtime, but he was -4 in regulation.
Yeah.
And they were a nightmare when he and Eichel were on the ice. Ever since, I don't even know if he was there in Seattle. I was at both of the games. I don't remember him being there. And then, last game he doesn't do all that much. I want to bring Jason up. There's a Jason in the queue, but I can't see his camera, so hopefully Jason in the queue can get his camera on. But the Lehner comments today, I'll start with the one that kind of jumped off the page, and that's his Twitter account. So he deletes his Twitter account with, 3 weeks to go in the season. He was asked about it today.
I didn't even notice this.
Yeah, he deleted the Twitter account. We tweeted about it, saying that he had deleted it. Shout out to the typo in my tweet about that.
Yeah.
Good for me. Even with the Twitter undo function.
I apologize. I hosted Sirius XM for 3 hours today.
No big
and I had
deal.
a streaming
You're
show
good.
this morning. So it's a little bit out on the I did look at me not doing my homework.
Yeah, brutal. So he deletes his Twitter account. He's asked about it today, and basically what the overwhelming kind of message is enough's enough. This is a hard climate for me to be in. And at one point he did take a shot kind of at the fan base saying, well, some of the fans are going to say it's my fault and the other half are not. So where do you think he is, like, mentally, and needing to win all of these games and worrying about, I don't think he's worrying about his Twitter account, but I think it proves like he's not in the same place he was in when he was in the bubble, sitting there watching Twitter, yapping at people and making fun of people after the game. Like, I don't know. I feel like he's in a different spot. You agree?
Well, yeah, clearly if he got rid of it. I want to be measured with this because, especially with Robin, man, like, this is a guy who should make all his own choices with this stuff. And I think he does.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But I also
don't know about that, Mike.
But but here's and that's where I'm headed here. This team doesn't tweet. Like, they might use Instagram a little bit, but for the most part, they're off social media. Okay. There's no way on earth that isn't a team directive. None. Like, there are players in the league on every team, and every team has players in the league that use this. And there was a moment in time where, like, Panda was the preeminent guy on there, and it was part of his ethos. It was his mentality. It was
every game
release. It was fun. It was like, man, I loved it when he was doing that, because it just showed that you can engage fans. You can have a public personality. You can be open and public and still play lights out hockey, which he was at that time. And it was great. And I don't have the way to find out whether there is actually I'd love if somebody in the media would actually ask, have the players been told they should not use social media in season? No one's ever asked that, and it might result in a press revoking. I don't know, because it's never happened. I don't know.
Well,
I'd love to
they're
find
not
that
allowed
out.
to use the phones in the locker room.
Well, and that's a league-wide rule. That's in your maybe in the CBA, I guess. I think it's in the social media handbook, whatever it may be. You're not supposed to. So I would like to know that, but there's not that many guys on the team that would use it a lot either. So here's kind of what I'm getting at, though, is that the feeling of these fans, like, dude, that goal that went in on the 5-on-3 that Carlson won back towards the net that goes off Martinez's stick through Lehner. Anybody out there that's, like, listening to this and calls that a bad goal and says that Lehner should have had that and kept his eye on it and all this other shit, you got another thing coming. You are absolutely as wrong as could possibly be. Like, you're telling me basically that a swallow can carry 5,000 human beings across the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. That's just so wrong. All right. And for him to get as much heat over that, like, goalies get it no matter what, but man, he gets it endlessly for people, dude. And it's just because he's not Flower. And I get the connection. I get the vindictiveness. I get why people are mad, but, like, you want your team to win. Like, Flower's gone. Like, he's not coming back. Like, you go root for Minnesota if you want, but don't troll a dude just because he got traded somewhere, And I think that's probably just had enough. He's like, man, whatever. These people don't want to cheer for me. Screw them. Everybody else that wants to cheer for me, let's go. Let's do this. And I don't know, man. It's a microcosm of what social media is, that goalies are lightning rods. Star players are lightning rods. Everything has a public perception, whether it's true or not. And I loved when he was able to use it as free as he wanted. And again, I have no clue why he is, you have to take it at face value that I'm just done with it for now. So I guess that's my piece on it.
I think what it initially proves is that he's still not comfortable here. You just ran down the fan base still. There's still Marc-Andre Fleury fans. But, when you read threads about Robin Lehner on social media, I'd say 65% are very positive and they support Robin. And I would assume he sees that and he reads that. But I think it's the other percentage that bothers him the most. And I'm going to go ahead and say that he was talked to about social media. This is just my guess, but it doesn't seem like Lehner doesn't make, he makes most of his decisions on his own. I mean, he came out and told us about the concussion based on his own. The organization didn't tell him to do that. He talked about, the vaccinations. The organization didn't want him to talk about that.
Kneeling.
I don't know. This one seems a little bit different to me than all of those. And I feel like because of the interaction and the people that are still obsessed with Marc-Andre Fleury, I think the organization talked to him and said, it's probably not best for you or any of us.
Well, I also think it's important to note that he just had basically a spat with your cohort boss. What do we call Frank?
Man, teammate at Daily Faceoff.
Yeah,
right. Absolutely.
I don't like line mates. Don't call people you work with line mates. It sounds.
I said teammate.
I know.
Line mate.
The Golden Knights like to do that. The Golden Knights.
I know. And I've never. I
hate it. But
I didn't exactly have a goalie partner.
They were not. They were not thrilled with how he was handling that. Whether it was talking to me in the elevator, or pulling Jesse aside, tweeting out about it. I don't think that they love the Dr. Frank stuff. It kind of took on an own life of its own, and then that was the last tweet. So the official last tweet was not true to Frank's report of him having a broken kneecap. I think that it is fair to say that it was possible that they talked to him about don't tweet or don't do whatever, but I have a hard time believing they said shut it completely down and delete it completely, especially the way that he said today. It just enough's enough. I was a little taken aback by the landscape is hard for me. When that's the case, I'm a little nervous about how you're going to play through a stretch here where they need every single game for him to be A+. And I don't think he's healthy yet.
I don't have concerns about him in terms of like where he is. If we're talking where he is, I have no concerns about Robin in that way. If he's made this decision, like you said, this is just us throwing spaghetti in. So we really don't know. I would have to imagine, knowing how buttoned down the VGK team is, that there was that they had to have said something at some point. But it's ultimately, man, he's his own guy, and when you've got Robin, you know that he's going to make his own decisions, and you have to allow him that leeway. And I admire the living hell out of this guy because he stands up for what he believes in with these things, and he's so honest about it. And does he deserve to be a lightning rod? I don't think so, because he's honest, So, and I know I get the whole thing.
Lightning rod here. He's a lightning rod here because he's viewed as the reason that Marc-Andre Fleury had to be pushed out. And Marc-Andre Fleury was the Vezina Trophy winner a season ago. Yeah. And this season, they have not gotten Vezina Trophy quality play in the goal. That's not necessarily his fault, but that's why he's a lightning rod. I don't think most people hate him.
And your point, like he hasn't been healthy all season, and the team hasn't been as good defensively. They weren't going to get Vezina quality goaltending out of Marc-Andre Fleury this year. It wasn't going to happen if he was here. No chance. So.
And I think the organization could have helped out a couple of years ago, and came out and said, hey, we made this decision. This has nothing to do with Robin or Mark. We believe more the future of Robin Lehner, so he's our goaltender. They never really came out. They always they cut around corners to tell us, well, he's Mark's, insurance policy. And then, in the bubble, Mark is still our number one. And then eventually Robin takes over. If they were just honest right away, and, let's be honest, we all think they knew that Lehner was going to be their starter, then the organization could have came out and the fan base probably would have gotten around it earlier.
Well, I'll say it's malleable. And I've seen this for a long time in hockey, that even though I think you're on to something, that they looked at that cap hit and the goalie they had in the future in Robin and thought, wow, this is our way forward. I agree with you. You can't predict who a starter is going to be. And I'm even looking at the Minnesota Wild right now. Okay. Cam Talbot's been effing lights out for that team in Minnesota. And Marc-Andre won his first 3 games. You don't trade for Marc-Andre Fleury for him to sit on the bench in playoffs. But if Marc-Andre sucks for the next 2 weeks and Cam Talbot keeps it going after he's been their rock all year, it's probably going to be Cam Talbot. And that's where I don't like to project that this is what's going to happen, and I think it's hard to proclaim those things about goaltenders or players and say, well, he's going to be our number one now. I do think that there was a bit of deceptiveness for sure. I don't think it was, all it was, hey, he's an insurance policy. That's what it was. And that was not the case. They rotated starts immediately. That's not an insurance policy. So, a lot of it's just semantics. I think you kind of have to just read between the lines when you start seeing people the way they play or what the starts are and everything. And I don't know, man. I'm rooting for, I always am rooting for Robin. I love to see him perform, man. I love to see him prove people wrong. And I like to see him happy because
I just wish he was more comfortable because this is a market that most hockey players should feel incredibly comfortable in.
Mm-hmm.
The city alone, the access, all the facilities,
the fans,
but more importantly, the fans. There's no pressure whatsoever from the fans. I mean, people in Boston, you can't walk around Boston if you're losing. Bergeron will get flipped off, and Marchand will be, told to score.
You guys are massholes up there. All you like compassionate, blue,
too much
socialist Massachusetts people. They're so. I know you're a bunch of assholes. No, I'm sorry.
We are. I'll admit it.
Listen, I don't want people to take anything away from what I'm saying. They're I'm being facetious in everything I just said politically. There,
no, you're
it's
not.
It's ironic to me in a lot of ways. Like you go to Texas and dude, they're the nicest people I've been around in Texas. Yet, it's selfish central when it comes to your politics, which the world's a crazy place, man. It really is. In Massachusetts, there's shopping carts everywhere in the parking lot. It's
God, we're going down shopping carts. We're gonna transition
not in Eastern Massachusetts.
Hang on, we're transitioning.
Get us out of here. Get us out of this, Ken.
No, yeah, we're getting off of this, and we're actually gonna make someone else get us off of this, and that's gonna be your name on there is Fantasy Dota. Is it what? Well, how would you say your name there?
Fantasy Dota.
What's up, buddy?
Not much. How are you guys doing?
Good. Let's hear it, man. What's on your mind?
I've actually got two questions now that you guys brought up the whole fun social media thing. We can start with that one and then lob onto my other original one. When was the last time Vegas did anything fun or different? And I know the pandemic kind of made some things a little bit more difficult with your charity and your communities and stuff like that. But if you look at other social media, Buffalo recently did something fun for one of their pre-games or something like that. What's the last thing that Vegas has done that's been fun?
Would the BAMF?
How about let me tag
skate,
this?
Would that be?
Let me tag this just super quick and add to it. When's the last time they did something that was truly community oriented, like a big community thing?
They just did a watch party, but it was season ticket holders only. They did a watch party at the Dollar Loan Center.
Okay. I mean, I'm not boots on ground, guys. So
it hasn't been. It's certainly not what it was the first year where there was red carpet or gold carpet. They had the thing downtown, the loser parade that I hated, but that was a community gathering thing. After they lost in the Stanley Cup final, they celebrated that they lost. I still don't understand that, but they did the thing in the high roller where the fans were able to go up in the high roller. But those are all pre-pandemic. I would say post-pandemic, your closest thing is a watch party here or there, but they're not horribly well attended. I don't necessarily think that's their fault, but yeah, there hasn't been anything really unique or anything new, at least for the past couple of years, I would say.
No,
we might have to tempt. I mean, COVID really has made that goofy.
It has.
Yes, but I've seen players. But I've seen players on other teams signing. I saw Will Carrier signing autographs with fans at a community appearance. So maybe it's more. Again, and I'm not boots on ground, so it's by all means a fair question, and I would like to see more of it. Yeah, I'll say that.
Oh yeah, it's one of those things that just makes it feel more personable rather than just corporation business hockey thing.
Yeah,
which they have fallen into in a big way. Just the way that they're very corporate, they're very stiff, and I think they've brought in players that kind of fit that. It's unfortunate, but as long as they win, if this team squeaks into the playoffs, it's going to be interesting because a lot of people are going to be mad, and that'll be fun. What was your other question?
This one's kind of, I think, more directed at Mike since he's the goalie expert here.
Haven't you seen me play goalie?
You mean Ken?
You didn't see the praying mantis in the net at the All-Star?
Trust me, I did see the praying mantis stance. Don't worry.
It's ridiculous. That was elite. Wow.
I'm ready for it. Lay it on me, man. Goalie's my favorite thing to talk about.
What's your current read on Logan Thompson for the future? Short term, long term, is he going to be backup? Is he going to be tandem next year, future starter, or is he just going to be another trade asset for Vegas?
Great question. Logan Thompson will not be a trade asset. He played for the Brandon Wheat Kings.
Yeah, but was cut once. His general manager cut him.
Yeah, he did. He didn't cut him.
And then didn't offer him a contract in the AHL.
Gave him a 3-year contract with 2 years worth.
No, but he signed with Hershey first.
So here's what's important. That next contract next year is a 2-way deal, which to me at this point doesn't matter. I think Logan Thompson's in Vegas next year 100%. And I'll tell you the biggest reason is that contract. It's his cap hit. He's shown that he can perform. He's shown that, and in his limited sample size, there's no other way to say this. He's done better than Laurent Brossoit. Okay. And you know where he's actually done it? Thompson's been the best penalty killer on the best penalty killing goalie for the Golden Knights this year. And that's where Brossoit really struggled. Okay. I'm looking at those numbers right now. This year on the penalty kill, 12 games for Thompson, 884 save percentage on the kill, which is actually pretty good. Like that's like top 15, 20 in the league. And Brossoit's an 812 in 20 something. Okay.
So how are you going to move that contract so easily? You
got to pay somebody to take it. But there are teams in this league that will be in need of goaltenders, and maybe you can package that to get somebody else along with it. Okay, they'll be able to get rid of that contract. $2.5 million for backup goalie. You know, Arizona might need it. Okay, who knows what they have next year? Okay, somebody will take Brossoit's deal. Thompson will be there next year. I don't think we can predict anything for playing time. I think the playing time prediction is largely at this stage going to be based on Robin's health, because I don't see Robin going anywhere either. And from that point, who knows? I think that Logan's ceiling is for sure a backup in the NHL, potentially starter. And I've said this, and he clapped back at me, which I loved.
It was awesome.
Okay?
It was awesome.
Dude, it's great, man. Like, here's the thing.
Well, he's watching. Hey, Logan.
Yeah. If Logan, if you're listening, I love that. But because here's why. He's got an inner fire in him to prove people wrong, because he's always been looked over. And I know very well, and I'm good friends with the goalie that he was partners with in the ECHL. His name is Parker Milner. And it was the South Carolina Stingrays. And he credits Parker for really helping him. And Parker said, yeah, he took it to heart and listened, but boy, he wanted it, you know? And that attitude will carry you. I do think, though, that like even what I said, it wasn't just me. Like it's every goalie coach around the National Hockey League I talked to when you evaluate.
Logan will readily admit he's well aware that his stance is not perfect.
Yeah. And I listened to the whole clip of that where he came back, and I don't know if you heard it, but like he's laughing. It's definitely like playful.
Yeah.
And I think some people look at that and they're like, "Oh, dude, he roasted you, dude. He hates you." And I'm like, well, I really hope he doesn't, because all I'm doing is pointing out what everyone knows.
I don't think he hates you, but he definitely roasted you.
Yeah, oh, you got it.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, man. Like
keep doing it.
Credit.
Keep stopping the puck and keep doing it. That's what I say.
I do think all the things I've said about his game are probably true. That if he can clean up and make it a little bit simpler, I think he can be a starter in the league. He's done it at every level. You can't bet against it when a guy's done it at every level.
Can he be the starter here?
He did it. I think people like him. And there's reasons why that sucks, because he's not the lightning rod. He's the prospect coming through.
We got to get him a Twitter account.
And he's exciting. I think he has one, but he's exciting. Like the way he plays is exciting. I'd like to see it a little less busy, because I do think that teams will figure that out and be able to play against it. There's always a bump after your first 10 or 15 games. Teams figure you out. Happened to me real fast. And I didn't have near the skill that Logan has. He has incredible. Thank you, Ken, for showing my rookie.
Sure. I don't see it on here, but go ahead.
Logan has, and this was actually part of his answer to Dan Duva and Darren Elliott. Logan does have exceptional natural ability. He does have exceptionally good hands and quick reflexes. And that's, kind of what gets him around some of these things that I see. And if you've got a goalie that has, a chip on his shoulder because he's been overlooked, if he has a ton of natural ability, and if he has a good attitude and is willing to learn like Logan is, your ceiling is still a starter in the NHL. And he's done it at every level. So I think by the end of that 3-year contract, he's going to be knocking on the door to play a lot of games, I guess is what it comes down to. One way or another, I think there's a decent chance of that. But he's at the point now where him being a backup in the NHL isn't going to hurt his development anymore. And at the start of the year, I couldn't say that. At the start of the year, I thought he needed to play games. And he did. He went to the American League. He played well again. And that gave him the chance to be ready when he came to the National Hockey League.
But why was he overlooked to start the season? Why did they think they had to go out and get a backup if what you're telling us is what the organization should have seen?
No, I think the organization played this 100% right. I totally agree with what the organization did this time because, and I've said this, like last year was all screwed up with COVID. It was half a season in the American League within your division. Some teams just sucked. He put up gaudy numbers and he carried the mail for half a year, basically. And you'd really need to play a full season in the American League or even 2 to understand what it's like to play night in and night out at the pro level at that heightened sense. And so I thought for the Golden Knights to put him in the American League again this year was the right thing to do. And I think we even said this at the beginning, like, I think Brossoit's contract's rich, but I liked Brossoit coming in to give a buffer for Thompson to be ready because I felt that, and I said this, I said, if Thompson has a great year, you get rid of Brossoit next season. But I thought what was going to happen, this was my expectation, was I thought, man, Brossoit's got a chance here to show the league, like, hey, I can do more than what I'm doing and create trade value for himself. I don't think, I think the perception is probably lower on Brossoit now than it was before. And I think part of that's just because of how Pete beat him up in the media too. Like he may not have said Laurent Brossoit didn't stop pucks, but without saying Laurent Brossoit, he said Laurent Brossoit didn't stop pucks.
Yeah, and then he's injured 5 seconds after. Good questions there, fans.
Those were great questions. I hope I answered them. Was there anything more to it you wanted to get?
No, that was perfect. Thank you very much for answering.
The other caller we have, Jason, is popping in and out. Hopefully, and Jason,
is that your mom?
Getting a phone call. Who was that? Was that? I just do not know. Jason, turn your camera on if you want to go up. But that was there. He is. All right, here we go.
Can you hear me,
buddy?
Gotcha.
Dude,
your closet looks like mine.
I know. I was going to say 2 closet guys.
Only those aren't jerseys.
I was going to bring the lights down and make it a little creepy. Like,
yeah. It is kind of like an abattoir in here. But anyway, could you carry on?
So, my question. Well, I want to thank Ken first off. I asked him for bets, I asked him who's going to win, and he's been right like 70% of the time.
I'm killing the game.
Very good.
Can I give you a quick plug for Around the League if you want to spread your money around?
Sure.
Okay. And this is my everyday employer daily face-off. We do a show Monday to Friday where we got a guy who does our points bet segment, and he does really well. Tyler Yaremchuk. Anyway, send Tyler some love too. But Ken's crushing it this year.
Ken's pretty good. I've been not on all his picks, but they've been pretty good.
Yeah.
So I have pick the ones that are right.
Yes, exactly.
Good job.
About DeBoer, and it's not that I think he's obviously a good coach, a great coach. But his style is so simple at times. My wife can watch the play and know what's going to happen like 3 seconds, later on the play. And it's not frustrating, but when I watch other teams play, we're so blah. And I don't know if it's the players or the players fit the system. Does he need different guys? But look at Carlson. Since he took over, I mean, his numbers have not been very good. And I don't know if that's the system. It's more back checking, more defensive, but it's I don't know what you guys think. I think he's a great coach. He's gotten teams to the finals. Mm-hmm. It kind of looks the same. Every game is like a replay of how they get the puck out of the zone, how they move it through the neutral zone. It's the same passes. So it could be a simple way to play, and it's the right way to play. Mike, that's the way teams like to do it, but I just would like your thoughts on kind of his style and moving forward, if we need different players for it, or if we just need to get healthy to look a little better.
It's a great question. Getting healthy would help an awful lot of things because the Golden Knights really under DeBoer have been a team that scores on the rush. That's what they've been. Pacioretty's been great on the rush. Even Stone is good on the rush, despite, not being the fastest guy. Man, he delays, finds lanes. But I do agree with you, and having played against DeBoer systems for a long time, it is pretty simplistic. I mean, it's get the puck and go up that ice. Like, let's go. Blow the zone forwards, grab a D and go. We're going to transition as quick as we can. And, they use the walls a lot when they're coming out of the zone. It's a very structured system. It's a very demanding system in that you have to skate. Okay. And I appreciate that, because if your team doesn't skate, you're not going to win games. And
players enjoy playing under it.
Players like winning. And if this is winning, they like it. Okay. The players definitely say it's not easy. And the D zone takes a lot of effort, because you're constantly trying to go to puck retrievals so you can go the other direction. Now, this is my belief for the team. I truly believe that they're a little bit stifled in options and creativity. And listen, I just coached the St. Louis Blues Warriors to a 3-13 performance in a veteran tournament in Dallas, Texas. So let's take this with a grain of salt. I suck as a coach, but that's besides the point. When we go coach Warriors,
1-1-1.
All right, you go. So when I go to coach our Warrior teams, honestly, it's about camaraderie and having fun. I'm kind of kicking my own self.
No, we're for winning.
Yeah, thanks. So, and they are too. But
I swear at 7-year-olds.
I would like to see the Golden Knights use the middle of the ice more on their breakout, or at least have the option to do so more often. Because I really believe that the top teams, when they've played against them, especially when they've played against Carolina, when they've played against, let's see who else, Nashville did a good job of it against them. They take away the walls and they just can't get out of their zone as well. And then when they get in the offensive zone, it's just very straight to the net. We're not going to get through lanes. It's very workmanlike. Get it to the points, get it to the net, get it to the points, get to the net. And I think that's kind of where Karlsson gets a little stifled. That Karlsson's a pretty decent skater with the puck, but how willing is he to really hold on to the puck and possess it anymore?
No.
Right? I want to see Karlsson have the freedom to curl up the wall, hold on to that puck, be confident, and find a seam, and not just automatically go to get it to the point, crash net.
I think I've noticed when McNabb and Martinez came back, they do a lot of more dumping, just little passes into the middle with the center kind of going up I've noticed the breakout's a little better, but I still think we can get hemmed in. I mean, awful by Dallas.
And it's easier to do that against bad teams. Seattle doesn't forecheck nearly as hard or as diligently as Carolina. So you kind of get forced into just using your walls. And if you're just go on the rush, it's going to come back at you sometimes too. And that's what makes me nervous about their D zone, is how they're so intent on blowing the zone with the forwards that they get caught sometimes. And sometimes it's even the D leaving the zone as well. All it takes is one bad bounce or a puck picked off at the blue line. And I think what you're saying with the systems, to me, it really kind of goes hand in hand, even with the power play. I don't see enough player movement in the offensive zone or puck movement. It's both. And I think 5-on-5 or power play, it's all kind of symptomatic of that. I'd like to see the players have more free reign. They had it under Turk, but that was also the knock, man, is that they didn't play systems under Turk. So can we bridge that gap, I guess? Can we take Pete and Turk and go, here's our new head coach?
Whatever system you're going to play, there's going to be a plus or minus, right?
Exactly.
Offensively, you could play like Dallas. It kind of packs it in, just counters. But yeah, I think it just feels like we've gotten stale. I watched the power play. I don't know who it was, Florida. And what they did on that one power play, I haven't seen in 20, the amount of passes, seam passes, the puck moves. And I love Eichel, but when he gets it, he sits for 10 seconds on the half wall, and it literally creates they just stand there. The defense can just stand there and,
he's
wait.
great at zone entries. He's great at puck possession. He does a good shot.
Doesn't shoot much.
Is he still that elite playmaker? Not really. He does what I do think Eichel does best amongst the forward centerman group is he makes decisions quicker with the puck than a lot. And I know you'll say he'll hold on to it, but you will see times where, man, it gets to him and he's already made that decision on when that puck's going to go through, and he will try to force plays with it. And dude, Eichel's been good. He's produced right at his career mark, really.
As a couple of games coming in.
And maybe it's a good time to bring it up, but I mean, the last 5 seconds of the game against Vancouver, boy, really worried me with Eichel. And I know I'm picking on 5 seconds of a game, but it's a 2-2 game, and the puck goes down behind the goal, and Eichel doesn't take a shoulder check anywhere, and he just blindly skates to double cover the guy behind the goal and leave somebody wide open in the slot.
Thank goodness it was Tyler Myers.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm telling you, man, that's not going to fly. Like,
I mean, if that puck goes in, that's season over.
Well, you back check, and he'll kind of be in front of the net or in the center, and he'll look over his shoulder, and the guy's already taken off. Then he takes off. He's very reactionary, and these guys are just too fast. I mean, you're not catching. He's super fast, but you can't catch him if they got
right.
There's a natural awareness that you need to have, and I mean, honestly, he's been on a bad team forever, dude. Like, he hasn't really had to play defense or buy into a system because they've just sucked, and he could go play offense. Like, and there's still time for him to get that. He's still getting his game back. So, I mean, I'm hopeful that he takes a look at those clips and he just says, man, I got to be more aware. I can do this. And maybe we see growth in the next couple games.
Because you bring pressure, unnecessary pressure to a guy that you desperately need to perform in the postseason?
Well, it better bring some pressure, because if you make that mistake and it goes in your net with like 3 seconds left in a game,
and you're not going.
You can't leave 2 guys open in your slot like that. You have to do that. That's non-negotiable. So, and I'm being pretty pointed with my language, but that's the discussion in the locker room between a coach to a player, and really from players to players, is that we have to protect that area and we have to be aware. Awareness is like such an underrated thing for players that a lot of fans don't realize, because you watch the puck, right? If you watch away from the puck, watch this. Okay. And there's a misnomer out there for goaltenders that goaltenders always have to watch the puck. Always keep your eye on the puck. And that's wrong too. Like, there's moments in time where you need to take a look around and survey the scene. You have to know where everybody is on the ice at all times, even goaltenders, or else you're a step behind the play. And I know we're going forever on this, and it's kind of my baby because it's goaltending, but like, I love to use the movie The Legend of Bagger Vance, if anybody's seen that. I don't know if you have.
Movie.
Will Smith.
Yeah. He didn't, and Bagger didn't slap anybody, thankfully, but you're gonna love this. The Legend of Bagger Vance is actually a modern adaptation of the sacred Hindu text, the Bhagavad Gita. This is not bullshit. Okay. Wow. I didn't know this until I was told this, but it is. So Arjuna is like, he's like Vishnu or God or something. Okay. And like Bagger is God and Vishnu is somebody else. I don't know. The bottom line is that Bagger Vance, Will Smith's character, knows everything. And he tells Arjuna, the golfer, to see the field. And it's a golfer. Like, what do I need to do anything other than, see the golf? And all he's doing is telling him, take in the surroundings, just breathe it in, know everything, get in sync with the whole world and what you're seeing. And when I teach young goalies, I say it to them all the time. I tell them to go watch this clip from Legend of Bagger Vance and try to transfer it to me. And then they go, what do you mean? I'm like, you got to see the field. You have to see everything. You have to know everything. And so that was a solid 2 minutes of complete utter bullshit out of me about a movie that's kind of
Smith. There's no
There's a scene in Caddyshack that kind of plays out the same way.
Yeah.
Are you talking about when Bill Murray when he like hits the 7-iron and knocks all the heads off the flowers?
Yeah. I mean, also Happy Gilmore, where he tells him that the goes in a circle and you got to be the ball.
That's Kevin Nealon. Yeah. Well, yeah. Round and round like a carousel, block the bad, in with the good,
right?
Down,
exactly.
Circular. Yeah.
Yes.
Feeling the flow, doing the bull dance. I love it.
You're a big golf movie guy, I see. Well, good stuff.
And I hate golf, dude. Like, I don't like playing it anymore.
Yeah, sorry. Just so everyone knows, the same pick I'm going to give Jason. Vegas is going to win the next game too.
Okay.
I think it might be under, but they'll win.
Jason, did I go way too long? Did I explain? I hope I
No, it's good. It's good.
Everything's cool.
All right.
I think you could have gone longer, because Jason kept bringing up Dallas, and I think he was concerned about what you were talking about earlier, Mike, about heavy teams.
Yeah, Dallas fits that bill big time. Well,
Dallas.
Oh,
what's
that? Did you say that Dallas did win?
Yes, Dallas did win.
Okay.
By the way, this somebody asking how old I am. 1988 is when I was born. I'm not smart enough to do the math of what that actually makes me. San Jose is also winning. I also have a producer. Wigliffe was here this whole.
San Jose's blowing out the Oilers 1-0.
Yes.
1-0. So let's make some picks before we get out of here. I already made my picks for the next game. I have Vancouver beating or Vegas beating Vancouver. I think they will also beat Arizona. I think they will lose in Vancouver. So I have them the next three.
I have a bad feeling about tonight or tomorrow night. Gut feeling. You beat Vancouver at home, but they're coming back. Something about it. So I don't think the Golden Knights are going to lose, and I don't think they're going to get run out of town. I think they get a point tomorrow. I think they lose, however, shootout overtime. I think they beat Arizona. And man, that game in Van, I think, is a toss-up, honestly. I don't know how to read that one. I'm going to say that they get a point tomorrow. They win on Saturday. I'm going to say they win on Tuesday in Vancouver again. I don't know. It's hard for me to read because I think Vancouver's a spoiler team.
I'm going to go. I think they lose to Vancouver tomorrow. I think there's just too much. I think Bruce Boudreau is a guy that can get his guys going at the end of the year. And plus, Vegas has only won 5 games in a row once this season. It was earlier in the year. So, I mean, for us to expect them to go rattle off 6, 7, 8, I think is a little bit – I think it's tough. I mean, how could we expect that out of a team that's only had 1 5-game – well, now 2 5-game winning streak? So, I think they lose the first game to Vancouver. I think they smoke Arizona. We all feel great about it. and then like you, I think it's going to be a toss-up, that game up in Vancouver, because again, if Vancouver wins tomorrow night, they feel like there's a little life in them. So I'm a little worried about that second Vancouver game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on the same page with you there. Yeah, I'm dreading the Calgary game. That
could be rough.
Seems so good.
Mike, do you think there's a little bit of – so I have a theory that teams are going to – no matter where they stand at the time of the game, they're going to play the Golden Knights hard because they do not – no team in the West wants the Golden Knights in because of there's the potential of them getting healthy.
Oh, for sure. And they're going to play them hard no matter what. That's just the way teams are wired, man. Somebody asked this, I think, earlier, like way early in the chat, like, do captains conspire and say, basically, we want to screw somebody? Like, no, that doesn't happen. There's a lot of pride out there. I'm just checking super quick here to see if that's a back-to-back for Calgary. And it is not. They play Seattle on the 12th. That'll be a cakewalk for them. The Vegas Golden Knights on the 14th. Both are at home. So that's
tough spot.
That might be your game there. That could be tough.
I mean, you get one of those, and all of a sudden, this picture looks a lot clearer. Like, there is a path still to 97, 98 points. I know they're sitting on 82 with 11 games.
They are not dead. No, they are not dead in the water. And if they get back in,
streak has really opened some doors for them. And you know, it very well didn't have to be a 5-game win streak. The Chicago game could have gone the other way. The Vancouver game could have gone the other way. And the good news is, when they've been scoring first a lot, when they score first, they basically always win. And the last couple of times they have not scored first, they have come back to win. So as long as they can keep doing that, I do think they have a little bit more control of that than some in the media and Pete DeBoer seem to think. You control the game, but we'll see. Thanks again to the Jimerson Law Firm for sponsoring every episode of Goalie Interference. We'll be back next Wednesday. The Golden Knights play on Tuesday. We'll be back Wednesday, finally our normal night. I think we have mostly Wednesdays the rest of the season. We will be back for that, and hopefully all the way through a playoff run. I was starting to get real sour on them making the playoffs. I think I said 12% on their last podcast. I'm up to like 50 now, maybe even 60. Yeah.
I've come 85%. They're in.
Hey, dude, I'll go 50-50 on it, and I'll take those odds all day because I think they've done an amazing job to put them at this stage where they still have a chance. And let's get this team into playoffs. I'll come back to Vegas. I know there's a lot of people on here that would like to buy me beverages, and I might entertain them. So
maybe I hope we don't get as much pizza this time. I will tell you that.
I'll take it all day long. I'm still trying to lose the weight.
By the way, Mike, your Dallas team 7-14 down the stretch.
It's not good.
Mm-hmm. We were terrible, right? We lost like 8 in a row.
Oof.
Yeah. Well, if this Dallas team does that, then the Golden Knights are going to waltz into the playoffs, and that would be nice. Joseph, 99% the Golden Knights make the playoffs. I need to smoke whatever you're smoking, bud. Good night.
Goodbye.